sponsored by South Leeds Life, which is the local paper, community paper for Leeds 10 and 11. I'm Linda, that's hopefully hosting tonight. Jeremy, the editor, is in the room, and Sally will be helping me if I get stuck with anything. Sorry. What I'm going to do is, we've got a lot of questions here that's been sent in by people, but I'm going to ask it in a different order each time, so hopefully everybody will get a turn at going first, second, third, and everything else, if that's all right. You may see some questions. People are allowed to ask questions if they're in the room. The questions that they do ask have got to be questions for everybody, not for any particular person. If they do ask something that's for a particular person or party, it just won't be requested. So if you'd like to start off now, please, Daniel, and just spend a minute to tell us about yourself and your party. You're muted at the moment.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking for the unmute button. Yeah, hello, my name's Daniel, Daniel Whetstone. I'm a father and an husband. I enjoy my sports very much. I've been working with children with special educational needs now for over a decade. It's very challenging, it's very rewarding. I enjoy it very much, but I do sleep on a night. It does help me sleep. One of the reasons I joined the SDP was because of they also believe in family values, and they talk about the family, and that's something that's important to me in our household, and that's something that is their values that I share and their values that I'd like to represent and give people the option to vote for me and represent me in that manner. I've lived in Leeds all my life. I've lived in South Leeds for about 15 years now, and what feels like a very, very long time ago, I even did an apprenticeship with Leeds City Council in South Leeds.
Oh, right. Right. Kevin, could you please tell us about your person you're representing?
Yes, thank you. I'm Oshin Duncan. He's an ex worked in a bar in Leeds, now works in Manchester on a trade union organizer, and but he travels over to Manchester, and as I said before, I think we all know about the dire strait of the situation with transport in general. I think we're all concerned about those problems. I know the area well because I lived in Beeston on the other side of the park to Hunslet, so I know the area well. And obviously the area faces loads and loads of problems with provision, and so I'm going to advocate that we try and tackle the underfunding of local councils, and I think we can probably all agree on that. Maybe not the way forward, but the lack of funding that takes place. Thanks for inviting me.
Omar, could you tell us a bit about yourself, please? You're muted. You're still muted.
Yeah. Am I all right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. My name's Omar Mushtaq. I'm a member of the Green Party, and standing up for an area that I've lived in all my life. And I believe that we should have people who represent where they live, because what happens outside people's doorsteps happens outside mine. So basically, I've run youth clubs in the area, volunteered in the area, from the homeless to supporting neighbours, and that's it really. And I joined the Green Party because it's the councillors is local. He empowers the community, gets involved, gets stuck in, and that's my aim really, to get stuck in.
Thank you. And Mohammed, please, could you tell us a bit about yourself? You're muted.
Right, okay. My name is Mohammed Iqbal. I've been a councillor for now 25 years in what is called Hunslet and Riverside ward, mostly Beeston Hill and Hunslet. I came as a very young man. It feels as if I've lived in the ward for the last 25 years. I was a working class person. who was a victim of a tragedy within the family, a very serious traumatic incident that led me to get involved with politics and make a change, try to make Leeds a safer place. And since then, I've been involved in politics and trying to improve services, worked very hard, tirelessly, been involved with so many projects. If I carry on, I'll take up all your time. So yeah, I enjoy my job. I like helping people. That's the buzz I get, helping people, making a difference, improving services. And that's why I still feel active, so young, and I want to continue with the job.
I was just going to say, if you'd like to start off with the next question, because we try to rotate it anyway, which is, what made you want to stand as a candidate?
Okay, well, that was 25 years ago, and I still want to stand because I feel that I've been able to do a lot for the community. I want to continue. I want to improve services. I want to improve standard of living. I want to improve standard of education. I want to community safety, which was one of the main priorities I joined for. That's why I want to stand again. I've been involved with so many projects, so many organizations, done so much, improved all the pocket parks in the ward. Every pocket park in our ward has been improved with the help of me and my colleague councillor over the years, and supported so many organizations, community centres, church groups. And I been in, sorry?
I'm going to have to cut you short now because we're over
Okay.
the minute. Thank you.
Okay.
Danielle, could I ask you the same question, please? What made you want to stand as a candidate? You're muted.
There we go. Press the mute button, it helps. When my son was born, I was looking around at the local area. You know, most politics is local, but there were a lot of services disappearing. The swimming pool disappeared from Middleton. There were other things in the area not there, and I was looking around, and mainly the only person I noticed who was fighting this was Wayne Dixon. He was standing up for people. I met him through his football club because my son was playing there. And the more I spoke to him and the more I looked around at the area, and I thought, well, you can either sit on the sofa and complain about it, or you can get off the sofa and you can go and do it. So I now I stand in elections to try and have a positive impact on the area and give people a democratic option.
Right, and Omar, please, could you tell us what made you want to stand as a candidate?
Hey, so one of the things for me was so again, where I live, I feel like in our area, past many years, high increase in antisocial behavior, in crime, I feel let down. And I've run youth clubs myself where I volunteered and I didn't get the correct support, but we did great things in these youth clubs. We had people enter the youth clubs that are now teachers, are in good places. So for me, it's, if you want to make the place you live a better place, instead of getting out, let's stay there, get together, and let's make this place a better place where we live. There's only one way of doing it, is getting involved. And if that's me being a councillor, getting involved, being the voice of the community, because home's home. And I think it's very important, because I was sat there one day thinking that, you know what, in our community, we have doctors that have come from our community. We have solicitors that have come from our community. We even have a pilot that has come from our community. Why can we not produce our own councillors? We can empower our community. Even if it's not me and I give that, you know, I encourage the community to do it, then let's get something moving. Sorry about that, Linda.
Kevin, could you tell us, please? Well, obviously you know what made him want to stand to be a candidate.
Yeah. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, the main issue we want to raise is the threatened closure of the 15 Little Owls nurseries in Leeds. And I'm sure many people here will be wanting to oppose those as well. So I hope elected councillors will do their bit in the council chamber I'll just say one thing, that the parents have organised 2 protests so far, and they'll be organising another one in Hunslet, starting from Hunslet Riverside, just walking to St Mary's Little Owls. And quite frankly, I'd invite all the candidates and of all the parties to come along and get involved and support the parents, and hopefully we can change the council's position on the Little Owls nursery and keep them open. Thank you.
Right. Could I start with you then for the next one, please, Kevin? Could you give me the top 3 priorities that you have for the, well, that it has for the area?
Well, yes, I think that the Little Owls affects every parent, so that I'd put that absolutely at the top. The second one is that I think the approach of the council, rather than just passing on the cuts from this Conservative government, and we know councils have lost half their funding since the Conservative government have been in power. They should be standing shoulder to shoulder with parents and trade unions in putting a concerted effort into fighting the cuts. So I'd say those are our priorities. Save the Little Owls, but let's put a fight together along with other councils throughout the whole of Yorkshire. We've now got a mayor to represent us and throughout the Yorkshire, so that we're offering a concerted effort against this government to say reverse the funding. And I think in an election year, we should be saying to the possible incoming new government, change the policy to local councils and properly fund them. Thank you.
Mohammed, could you give me your top 3 things, please? Your priorities. You're muted.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I agree with Kevin, agree with a change of government and more funding to local governments. My 3 priorities, one of the main one was the very reason of me joining the politics was community safety. As a result, I sat on police and crime, West Yorkshire Police Authority, which changed to police and crime panel. And I was the chair of West Yorkshire Police and Crime Panel for 3 years. And I'm also community safety champion for South Leeds Community Committee. So community safety is a priority because of what I suffered and what brought me into the politics. So I've improved in terms of asking for more police officers, and with Tracy Brabin coming in, extra 750 police officers, working very closely with police. Crime's never ending, but we still got to keep on top of it. That's one of the priorities. The other priorities is better housing. I've been involved with the improvements on the Garnets, Bismarck Street, also all the improvements since then, because I believe better housing improves the standards of health and education and attainment and succession to life. So better housing is another priority for me, and also education, which is the third option. And I set up an education project, which is called Arouge, which involves 15 inner city schools, and they get children involved with creative writing competitions. And every year there's a conference held in Civic Hall where the children are given awards for their competition. Whoever wins the competition are really was something I really look forward for every year for this event.
Thank you, Mohammed, please.
Sorry.
Daniel, could I have your 3, please?
Hi there. Yeah, so my 3 top priorities for Hunslet and the Riverside are mainly the roads. I've got to start with the roads. They're in a chronic state of disrepair, and to a lesser extent, the public realm and public furnitures need to be repaired and fixed. Secondly, I'd like to work with community groups, have more and better community groups. A lot for the young, but also not just for the young. You know, that we can do things for the elderly. We can do things for people with mental health problems and services, and this will help reduce antisocial behaviour. And thirdly, housing. We need more social housing, better housing. We also need to be able to expedite repairs quicker on council housings and other such things, because you know when you're in Hunslet, it's difficult to be proud of things that are falling apart, and I feel that there is just too much that is not taken care of and not looked after properly. So they'd be my top 3 priorities.
Thank you. Omar, please, could you give us your top 3?
Okay, I'll put it down to top 3, but I think I have about top 10. but
Top three, though.
I'll squeeze it to top three. So one of them is antisocial behavior. So how do we tackle antisocial behavior? We create better youth facilities and youth clubs. Because in our areas, just like the whole Hunslet and Riverside area, like in Hunslet, like in Beeston, we have a lot of youth on drugs that are committing crimes. And when we create good youth clubs, we give them youth opportunities. We help them get into work. We help them get into education. It clears the mindset, and the youth are the future. That's how it is. So if I was to pick another one, I'd say clean up the area, because when I've been walking around Eastern and Hunslet, one thing I realized that, the areas, it's full of, we've seen needles, we've seen mess. No one deserves to live in an area where fly tipping, there's waste everywhere. Everyone deserves to be in an area where it's clean, safe, where their children can walk the streets. So cleaning up the area is another priority. And if you was to say another one, like I said, again, with the housing, I do believe that selective licensing was brought into place for private landlords to stick by, and there's a criteria for them where they have to have fire doors, where they have to have, but it's like we forget that a lot of people live in social housing, council housing, federation housing, thousands of people. So equally, they have a right. So we should also hold a council accountable to have safer housing without everyone deserves to live the same. Everyone's value is the same. And like I said, that's three. I can put it into more, but sorry, that's the
I'm
three I
going to
picked
start
for you.
with you anyway for the next question, if you don't mind. What would you do to ensure the safety of road users and pedestrians with all the career cyclists that are about at the moment?
So I think, can I start?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the courier cyclists, what we need to do is we need to find the strategy first. So we need to find, so a lot of them are Amazon workers, are Uber Eats drivers. So what we can do is we can start by basically conversating with them. So get some literature together, contact certain departments like couriers, contact Uber Eats, contact them. And then you have meetings, because I think most importantly, when you have conversations with different companies, people, you engage. So engage with different courier companies and to get a solution together. Because then if we work together, then we understand how important road safety is, and then we can eventually conquer stuff like that. So I think it's very important. Engagement is prime.
Kevin,
Yeah, I understand the question, but I mean, to be honest, a lot of the courier drivers, I think, are under enormous pressure. They've got to deliver, and they work very hard indeed. So I have some sympathy. Obviously, they should stick to the road rules, which means that pedestrians take priority. But they're very vulnerable, actually, and I think they're probably very vulnerable to car users. It's not helped by, as previous speaker said, by potholes, where drivers have to swerve around the potholes to avoid ruining the tires, and that makes it more difficult for cyclists who are trying to tuck in to the cycle lane or tuck in to the left-hand side. So I think we've all got to share these roads together. But I think if we find a way of taking the time pressure off the delivery drivers, then there wouldn't be so much. They wouldn't be taking so many risks and going through gaps when they shouldn't be going through a gap, if they had that time pressure taken from them. Thank you.
Mohammed?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a difficult one because these courier cyclists are trying to earn a living, but sometimes I've seen them go over the pavements and cutting down corners, overtaking cars, which makes it extremely difficult. So there needs to be some type of regulation in terms of their times of working, the way they drive, the condition of cycle. You often see electric scooters flying past on pavements and all that. So there needs to be some sort of regulation, just the way the car motorists have been. There's a regulation recently passed where you have to keep certain distance from the cyclist. Equally, there needs to be a regulation for cyclists as well, so they are vetted, managed, trained properly to ensure that we have people safely crossing the roads, because often you see cyclists, if the traffic lights are red, they'll go through it on via pavement. So there needs to be strict conditions on them as well to ensure community safety.
Danielle, have you got any ideas or suggestions you'd like to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a difficult subject. It's a nationwide problem. It's not just a problem in Hunslet, and it's about individual responsibilities, isn't it? You know, each cyclist is responsible for their own conduct, as each driver is. But I think really it's like a lot of the others candidates have mentioned. It is about awareness. We could do some outreach programs. We need to make the public aware of the problems the cyclists have, and we need to make the cyclists aware of the consequences of their conduct. I would also encourage any of the public seeing, you know, really poor conduct by cyclists and illegal manoeuvres and dangerous manoeuvres to actually report that to the police, so that actions can be taken and follow-up things can be done. But there is no simple solution to this. It's going to have to be an ongoing thing, and it's really about awareness for all parties involved.
Yeah. Could I start with you on the next question, Daniel, please?
Certainly.
How would you resolve the issue of people parking on the footpaths? Because it is really dangerous. It's forcing the elderly, disabled, as well as able-bodied people with pushchairs and things onto the roads.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna sound like a bit of a parrot here, and again, that's about individual responsibility, and it's about people being aware of the consequences of their actions. Obviously, we can liaise with the police officers, and have them try to marshal problem areas more often. We don't really want to be punishing people on a daily basis with parking attendants and things, but if it is becoming so dangerous, then measures would have to be taken. We can look at predominantly problematic areas and look at the planning and see if we can make some adjustments to road services, see if we can add additional parking to areas, if we can make some adjustments to the road. But obviously none of these solutions are overnight, and there will have to be longer term projects.
Omar, have you got any suggestions over this?
So it's similar to what I was saying before. I think if we have consultations, because let's be honest, majority of the population is reasonable. So I think if we have consultations, like now we have a lot of residents meetings set up in different parts of the ward. And I think in there, so I spoke to a lot of police officers about this. So when they're saying when it's on the footpath, because sometimes people park on the footpath because cars can't get past. But it's very important, if you do park on the footpath, it's got to be clear enough for basically a wheelchair to access it and go past the vehicle, then it's only acceptable. So I think if you consult with people and you explain to people that by you parking in certain places, someone with a wheelchair won't be able to have access. You know, if a lady's pushing a pram, she has to go around, possibly it's dangerous. So again, if we, consultations with local residents meetings, and like I said, majority of the population, I do believe are reasonable, and you explain it in such a way and they will understand. So I think before we start giving fines out, and let's try the conversating first. And I do think that if you tell someone, look, if someone was disabled and they wanted to get on, simple like that.
Kevin, can I come to you next over that, please?
Yes, I mean, I think we need an awareness campaign on the problems, because I don't think a lot of drivers, when they park on the pavement, they think they're tucking the car in to avoid blocking the road. But if they, as has been said, you must, wherever you park, you must leave room for a double buggy or a wheelchair to get comfortably through. And that's the rules. So they could be fined. But I think if we have a council awareness campaign, to just with a few graphic images to show how difficult it is for double buggies and wheelchair users to suddenly have to go out onto the carriageway, I think drivers would soon get the message. Most drivers want to comply and want to be fair to other road users. So I would definitely encourage an awareness campaign. But a lot of our roads, of course, were built when cars weren't even invented, and they're just far too narrow, and there isn't sufficient parking.
Mohammed, can I come to you, please?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's you're right. Sometimes people park on the pavement to ensure that they're not blocking the traffic, but then they're not mindful that they're obstructing a disabled person in a wheelchair, or a family with a pushchair with a child in the front. So therefore, there needs to be some sort of awareness. I mean, consultation, awareness for drivers, but equally, as it stands, it's not. People park on the pavement, but it's not an offence. So if there was to be a change, it has to be local powers given to local councils, powers or change of law powers given to local councils to do any enforcement where people are deliberately parking on pavements, because that causes a lot of damage to pavement, stones and curbs as well, which costs council thousands of pounds. So where it's a narrow, it's horses for courses. Where it's a narrow road, you can understand, but where people just deliberately park, those kind of persistent offenders, they need to be, given a message that you shouldn't do that. It's causing inconvenience for disabled people and people in pushchairs.
Right. Could I start the next question with you, Mohammed, please, then?
Yeah.
As well as police officers, meetings and attendance at the community buildings and that, how would you work towards steering more police officers back to walking the beat in the outside communities where it matters?
More police officers. You need more police officers. I mean, I always believed in Bobby's on the beat, and more visibility of police officers. And this is something I argue all the time. I'm very fond of the NPT schemes, neighbourhood policing system, with the regular inspector who has hands-on in the area, has the knowledge, and knows all known prolific offenders and local activists. So it's all down to resources, and the government has taken away the funding from policing, just like the money has been taken away from council. Therefore, every time we're asking for more bobbies on beat, the answer is that we haven't got enough manpower because of budget constraints. Just like Leeds City Council, the policing budget has been taken away in the region of 20% or more when I was there. So it's down to resources and down to the government cuts.
Daniel, what's your views on that?
Hi there. Yeah, so I mean, for me, you need to have an open dialogue with the police services. You need to have relationships with local inspectors and local sergeants and things. You need to be able to communicate what the public are feeling and the areas that they want to see in, policed and manned more than some of the other areas. So what limited resources they have, they can use effectively within the community. I would continue to lobby the West Yorkshire Mayor for more, to be doing more, and to provide us with more funds for such things. I know in the adjacent ward, the SDB councillors have already put proposals forward. I would continue that and support that. And where viable, I'd fund PCSOs from the council, some of the council funds. And if antisocial behaviour and crime is particularly bad, there are some reserve funds that we may have to look at making proposals to dip into those, to use those to make it safer on the streets.
Omar?
I totally agree with that. That basically we do need more, like you said, bobbies on the beat. Because when you see in residents' meetings, there's like 3 PCSOs working such a large area. But I do believe, like you said, if national funding is not available for more police officers, we've got to push for more police officers by engaging more. But I think we also have to be realistic. And at the moment, if we don't have the funding for more police officers, we've got to carry on trying, but also maybe think outside the box too, create more neighborhood watches, so yeah, again, we want more police officers, we desperately want more, but also think about outside the box and try to encourage more neighborhood watches, because we need more people watching our streets, watching over them. So I think if we just sit there and, you know, we say, oh, we haven't got funding from above, we can't do anything, it's not good enough. Think of solutions and, you know, get cracking.
Kevin?
Yes, I think we should be clear what we mean by more bubbles on the beat, because certainly I remember years ago, the police officers used to walk the beat street after street. Well, it takes them about a week to get around the same street again. So once the bobby's gone, I suppose the criminals think, oh, I can burgle that house. But I think what we're really getting at when they say more bobbies on the beat is that more police officers having time to meet with their community, meet the schools, meet the community groups, meet the churches, meet the shopkeepers, being able to go in once a week to those shops, have a little chat. And that's not wasted time, because they'll get tremendous intelligence of what's going on in the area and what the problems are. And just having the time to do that, so that the police officers know people's names and things like that. So it's not just an external force that you ring when you ring 999, but they've got a real involvement in the community, links with the community. And that way we get real positive community policing that would help the areas to be safer. Thank you.
Can I start with you for this next question, please, then, Kevin?
Yeah.
Given the financial squeeze on the council and all councils, what would you cut from the council budget if you had to cut something?
I think everything's been cut. I've got a friend of mine's a shop steward in the local authority, and they've lost 1,000 people. And he said that people are scared to go off on sick or on holiday because they come back to an enormous pile of work. So I think everything's been cut. To be honest, what I would do for councils, I think councils across the whole of Merle, West Yorkshire, should try and link together and put a concerted effort back to the government for more funding, because I think every bit of slack has been cut, and we're now cutting into essential services like the Little Owls campaign, like the lack of the potholes that we've all encountered. So I don't think there's anything left to cut, to be honest.
Mohammed?
Yeah, thank you. If I had a choice, I don't think I would be able to accept cutting any of these services and save money. It's a very difficult one. We're 2.7 billion short from the budget, and we're down to the bone as it is. We've done, like Kevin, we've done as much cutting of services and trying to save money as possible. And now, if it was really where we had to make savings, then I would protect the essential services like the adult social care, children, vulnerable children in care. I would save those and prioritize where the cutting needs to be made. But it's a very difficult decision.
Daniel? Have you got?
Hi there. Yeah, but budget cuts. I think the first thing I take out is the pay rise the councillors have just awarded themselves. I think, as a council, we need to be more fiscally responsible and take care of the funds we have. Yes, there is less coming in from government, but a lot of what we have, I don't feel is managed well. I think it's mismanaged. There's a lot of vanity projects that money goes towards. There were millions of pounds spent on City of Culture, and we weren't really viable for it. They've just had lots of pretend trees in Leeds City Centre. All these things cost money. Are they essential? Are vanity projects things we should really be putting money on when there are essentials that are not being met? I don't really think they are. And my party, we're a whipless party, so I'm free to vote on these things as I see fit. So when budget proposals come in and amendments are made, I can vote on them to show what would best represent the Hunslet ward.
Omar?
Budget cuts, to be fair, one of the things that I do think, even though it was spent for national government, where I do think was a very overspend, was on cycle lanes. I think spending that much, I'm all for being healthy and doing the right thing, but spending that much money on cycle lanes when mothers are struggling to get baby milk, I think, and also the wage increase of councillors, I do think that, again, we have people in poverty, so I think we have to prioritize certain things. But again, there have been many cuts, unfortunately, too. So it's not many things you can really cut.
Can I start with you this time, Omar? Do you think councillors should be picking up litter?
100%. And the reason for that is because it like where we live. So where I live, the South Leeds in Beeston in Hunslet, there's so much litter about. And I don't think a councillor is too good enough to get his hands dirty. He should, one of the reasons why I joined was because seeing the Green Party councillor basically litter pick off my street, I thought to myself, my image of councillors were people that attend meetings, wear suits, delegate, but they don't get their hands dirty and they don't get involved. So I do think it humbles yourself, pick up your litter, clean your own streets, and it's our home. You shouldn't be shy of cleaning your own home. So you shouldn't be shy of cleaning your own street. And it's leading an example for the future, for the youth.
Right. Kevin?
Yes, I mean, I do on my street. I do pick up the bits of litter, especially tins, and put them in the green bin because they're so important for recycling. But I don't think we should just be walking the streets hours and hours. I think people have got better things to do than just doing every street in Leeds. We need a proper concerted effort of education that litter can destroy communities and is dangerous. And is completely negative against the climate change policies that we have. So I advocate more of those yellow bins, the specialist bins that just take tins, because if you recycle a tin, that's a really valuable thing to do. The tins and plastic, but there's one outside Leeds City Station. There's some not outside cafes. I'd have them out every single cafe and takeaway place, so that at least we'll get the most important bits of recycling done and keep the streets clean as well.
Yeah. And Mohammed?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as a councillor, it's good to be seen as litter picking, but does it actually resolve the problem? We as local councillors, me and my colleague, Labour councillors, we've supplied more than 250 bins in the area, because that's the way to deal with litter. We need provision there in place. We need education. We need to work with schools. We need to equip community groups who could do litter picking, whereas councillors should be more focused on strategic work rather than litter picking. We need to educate people. So yeah, we've been working with schools. We previously we set up Love Beeston, Clean Beeston scheme where community volunteers were involved. We funded litter picks and the bags and the equipment for the community groups to do litter picking. And we put bins in every area where there's a demand, there's a need, we supply bins from our budget. So I think that's the solution. We've got to deal with the problem rather than, being inactive. We should be proactive, and that's been our take on this litter picking and educating children. And educating them that, like you say, if every household clears in front of their house, the whole street would be clean in 5 minutes. And that's what we've been working on in the past.
Right. Daniel, your views on that?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, we shouldn't be dropping litter, should we? We all know that, and we're all responsible for that. But yeah, as a collective solution, why should we not muck in? I mean, you might need to be doing it in your own time, but the job can't all be admin and paper pushing. There's nothing wrong with going out and joining community groups as a collective solution. I mean, I'm not going to walk up and down every street picking everything up personally, but yeah, be involved with the communities, be involved with the people doing these things, develop more of them. I've forgotten his name now, but the head of Singapore in the 1960s, he said the streets needed cleaning, so I picked up a broom. And that's exactly the values that we have in the Social Democratic Party. I would put my personal time into that. I'd be more than happy to spend time with people and community groups improving the area.
Yeah. Can I start with you on this next question, please, Daniel? Leeds roads are getting close to being gridlocked. What is the solution?
A friend of mine was talking to me recently, and he said Leeds is the biggest city in Europe that doesn't have a secondary mass transit system. Obviously, as a city, we need an alternative transport system. All the way back in the 80s, they were talking about bringing back the trams. They were talking about the monorail. These things have been talked about for 4 or 5 decades now, and they're still not here. We have to make some long-term plans to put in some long-term solutions, alternative to the car and alternative to the things. Building more park and rides is only going to further congest the roads. We need something that isn't the car. That is not going to be an overnight solution. You know, that will take years and years and years, and it should be constructed as a wider thing to connect some of the intercities as well. But you know, bus gates aren't the answer. We need to. I think a lot of work has been done on roads recently, and there's been quite an assault on the car driver. There's a lot of roads have been taken from 2 lanes to 1 lane. There's a lot of places have been brought bottlenecks all across the city, not just in Hunslet. And I think realistically, we should review some of these roads, and we should look at some of the plans that have been put in place, and we should look at some of the future plans and possibly altering those to ease congestion and to make things more viable for the road user.
Thank you. What are your views on that, Omar?
So I think it's a very tough one. I think we can do a few things. We can try to better public transport, maybe encourage public transport more. Also encourage car sharing if people are working together. And also I think one of the major causes of it is with some of the cycle lanes, reducing the lanes. When people are driving, it's taking the journeys a lot longer. So I do think it's a very tough one, but I do think if we, better public transport, encourage car sharing. And also one thing I've noticed was a lot of people that I've come across that their traveling distance isn't even that far for them to drive, but they always want to get in the car and just drive up the road. So I think encourage people to, if it's not a necessity for them to drive there, maybe walk there, and also better public transport, car sharing, and I think the major thing was the roads. They've reduced the lanes, and it's caused a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, I used to cycle to work, and I found it very dangerous, to be honest. So I do appreciate the efforts being made for more cycle lanes, making it a bit safer. But the trouble with this, the planning of the transport system in Leeds, and we are the biggest city in Europe without a rapid transport system. The trouble is we've never designed them properly. And so you put a cycle lane in and you take a lane of traffic out. In Europe, we've all been on holiday at various places, and they have cycle lanes that are completely separate and designed to be separate. So they keep the cyclists away from the cars, and the cars have got access to the city. I slightly disagree with what Daniel said about park and ride. I think park and ride, if it's effectively done, that the park and ride takes sort of 20 cars and parks them up and puts all those people into a bus. So you've got something that's perhaps the size of 2 or 3 cars. So an efficient park and ride system outside the city or on the fringes of the city mean that there's just those buses going into the city and the cars are staying outside. And I think that does help. But we all are desperate for better public transport, and I'm looking forward to see what the mayor's plans are with the taking back control of the buses, because we all need better public transport, reliable public transport. Then car users would say, as they do in London, I don't need to take my car into London because I know there'll be a bus within 2 or 3 minutes every time, and so that will be a better way forward. Thank you.
Mohammed, what's your views on this? Because
thank you. I think every little bit helps. The park and ride has helped the city tremendously. It works, like Kevin says. So many cars are not coming to city centre now, and just imagine if all those cars were having to come to city centre, how our Leeds would be a gridlock. So, but that really, ideally, there was a scheme for trams, and the central government pulled the plug and didn't support the tram scheme. That would have been really good. The only way to take cars off the road is having an alternative, better and affordable transport system. I'm glad that the mayor is very keen to take back the ownership of buses, franchising the scheme. I think equally we need control over our train system as well, and give the public an alternative, a quick, cheaper option to abandon the cars. Otherwise, people are so lazy, they're having to take the cars to city centre and cross the city and wherever. If there's no other alternative, people will continue using the cars. The junctions are not designed for modern day. Some of the junctions need improving to help the flow of the traffic as well. So there's whole sorts of approaches, but I think the tram system would have been a real solution for a big major city like Leeds.
Can I start with you on the next question, please, Mohammed? A lot of money has been spent on cycle lanes in recent years. Do you think they are a good investment?
Yes, if you're not paying for it for yourself. This money came from central government, so therefore it's not been a burden on Leeds City Council. In fact, we've been quite clever in using that money. We've improved all the junctions and giveaways with that money. So and the city is looking into future because we want to promote healthy living, people to come off their cars and use cycles. So therefore, I think it's a good. It was a good opportunity to have cycle lanes because we didn't have to pay for it. Because a lot of people don't know where the money came from, and they often criticize us. Oh, you're wasting money on cycle lanes and all that. But it is a central government scheme, and why not? We've used it effectively and cleverly.
Daniel, could I have your views on that, please? You're muted.
I don't have a problem with us having cycle lanes per se, but they're not all that used. You know, you look at the topograph. You look at all the hills in Leeds. You know, it's not a flat area. There aren't a great many cyclists. But if we were going to have the cycle lanes, in so many places, it has cost us a road lane. If they could have planned it and built the cycle lanes without taking away from the road users, without taking away from the, I think it would have been a much better way to do it. And I don't have a problem with us having cycle lanes for cyclists. You know, if you're on a bike on a road, you're in a very vulnerable position, and I'm more than happy to give them a safe space. But the way it's being done, it has had a detrimental effect on people who are not cyclists.
Thank you. Omar, could I have your views on that, please?
So one of the things is, like you said, the money is from central government, but the question was, is the money well spent? And if that money could be used elsewhere, then no, it's not money well spent, because we live in a deprived area where pensioners are struggling to pay their gas and electric bill. We live in an area where mothers are struggling paying baby milk. So spending millions on cycle lanes, causing congestion by reducing lanes. Don't get me wrong, being healthy is very important, but I think our demographic and where we're living, people are struggling, pensioners are struggling, mothers are struggling. We are, people are struggling for food. I give one of my family businesses, they give free food out to people that are in need at a certain time. And with the level of people that I have coming now are people that are working. And I do think, so it's not, to me, spending millions on something like that, is it money well spent? No, I understand it's from central government, but that money can be used in very other places. Sorry. Thank you.
Kevin, can I just go to you now, please, Kevin?
Thank you. I honestly think it is money well spent. It's not an enormous amount of money. It is coming from the government, and I think the council were right to put the cycle lanes in. Obviously, in some places, you need some remedial action because it's just maybe not being planned correctly and things like that. But it will make this country fitter. And we've a health problem, I'm afraid, in this city and throughout the country, which costs the NHS an enormous amounts of money. And it's a very low-cost way of making people fitter and safer. And I think we should start it in the schools by encouraging people to cycle to school, and perhaps then they'd keep on cycling to work afterwards. It is a hilly city, Daniel's right. York, and there's an enormous number of bikes in York, so it's nice and flat. But I think we should, where we can, we should encourage people to cycle and use the cycle lanes. And I think it will, in the long run, it will make the benefits. Perhaps you don't see them in just a year's time, but over 10 or 20 years, I think we will see the benefits.
Can I start this last question with you then, please, Kevin?
Yeah.
How do you plan, how would you plan on engaging with all the diverse communities that we have in this area?
I think that's a really good question. It's a diverse city, and growing up, it wasn't that way in Leeds, but now we've got a wonderful mix of cultures, different religions, different cultures, and people tend to get along in a really good way. But perhaps that's the sort of the Yorkshire way, that we greet people and we try and get along and respect them. I think it's important that we understand other people's attitudes and what are their concerns. So I really think that, especially at election time, and this is a really good initiative that South Leeds Life have taken. I think we ought to take a bit of time out to understand what other people's problems are, and see it from their perspective, because it's really important that diversity and getting along with everybody is so important to the good well-being of this city.
Yeah, thank you. Mohammed?
Thank you. We're very proud of having a city which is very diverse and rich in diversity, people from different communities, and they bring so much in for the city. After 7/7 bombing, I decided, because of that, I decided to become the Lord Mayor of Leeds. And the main purpose was community cohesion, bringing communities together to understand one another. And I think it's a very, very important thing. We need to understand each other, respect each other's cultures, religions, have community events, joint events where we have interaction, because often it's the ignorance. Once you've not seen or had an interaction with different communities, you have different perception. But once you work with each other, you realize there's no difference. Like Joe Cox says, we have so much in common than the difference we have. So it's about understanding, respecting. And I've been an advocate in terms of being the first Asian Black Lord Mayor of Leeds. And that was a very positive message of bringing everybody together. And I always take a lead on that role in promoting community cohesion, bringing communities together, attending multi-faith events, holding community iftars. As in Hamara, we hold a community iftar every year. And we have so many won at Leeds United Foundation as well. So that's about understanding cultures, respecting each other's faiths, and that brings everybody together.
I'll have to go on to Daniel now. If you could give us your views, Daniel, please.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, you should only really separate people by their geography. You know, if you live in this ward, I'm more than happy to engage with you, meet you, talk to you. You know, I'd happily visit community groups and schools and make myself accessible via social media. And even if you didn't live in the ward, I would still listen to you and I would still engage with people. And I would be as accessible as I can, and I would more than happily go out and meet anybody who is prepared to meet. And realistically, we have far, far more that unites us than we have that divides us. And that's what we should be looking at as a community, the things that we share, public spaces that we share, the beliefs that we share. We should engage in that with each other openly.
Right, thank you. And Omar?
So with that, how you engage is, I think the proof is in the pudding. And me and one of the councillors, Ed Carlisle, we were sat down one day and thinking, you know what, we need to bring people together. So we set up this thing called, well, I was saying Beast in Union, Power to the People, but it became the Beast and Hill Association. So I just remember we organised an event, invited everyone. England was playing then. Not many people turned up at the start because England was playing. Then we had an influx of people. So this Beast and Hill Association, it's run by residents. And in this Beast and Hill Association, the first meeting was magical. We had people from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, everyone from 3-year-old to an 80-year-old, speaking together that have never spoken together. And they've done amazing things since then. They've taken control of it. And I believe if we set up more associations like that across the Hunslet and Riverside ward, it brings people together, it brings community cohesion. And it's amazing, honestly, when you sit there, when you see a 75-year-old saying, I've never spoken to someone in with an 18-year-old about this, and people with different religions, different cultures coming together. And I think if we pride ourselves on that and we set up more associations like that, we bring people together.
Right, thank you. Before we finish, I'd like you all to just give us a minute to finish off each. But Jeremy, is there anything in the chat, because I can't see the chat? You muted.
Yeah, there was a related question. I can't see the chat either. Is it gone? Oh, it's down here. Specifically mentioning Islamophobia, but I think all forms of prejudice. I'll read the question out. Islamophobia has become increasingly prevalent and is a huge concern and worry for the person who's asked the question. I've been on the receiving end of horrific racist abuse, and it's the most prominent form of hate we're seeing around here. How does each candidate propose to address this? Did everyone hear that?
Yes, if you'd like to start off, Kevin, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see by tonight we were all from different backgrounds, and I think I think we all have to campaign for against Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-racism of all forms. We know there's obviously it's on every night in the news. There's a terrible war in Gaza, but in this city there's been numerous protests and not a single aspect of violence. There's been dialogue between the communities. It's been strained, but it's been respectful. And I think that's a way that we can tackle really difficult issues without resorting to the problems that some have in some countries of writing and things like that. I think it's a testament to the people of City and the police who've been really helpful in that we can have protests without it going overboard into any difficult antisocial behaviour.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you. Yeah, Islamophobia has been, I mean, it's become a culture when politicians want to attract certain type of vote. They make those kind of comments, which is not a good precedent. And we heard that from conservative leadership on many occasions, like Johnson and Suella Braverman. They don't help. The present government hasn't been helpful. There should be a change in legislation. All form of discrimination and hatred is unacceptable. There should be protection, just like anti-Semitism. There should be protection for Islamophobia as well. It should be taken as seriously as that. Kevin's right. I've attended almost every protest in Leeds, and it's been very peaceful. And the organisers have been insisting that the people should be very calm and respect the law. So any type of hate is unacceptable, but there needs to be equal type of law to protect all vulnerable people characteristics, just like the way anti-Semitism has the protection.
Oh, could I go to you, please?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons we can address it is by workshops, is by educating people how all forms of hatred, including Islamophobia, is wrong. And I think we need to address the bigger parties, like you have the Conservatives, the major Labour Party. The major Labour Party cut off ties with MEND, who also are a big organisation that tackle Islamophobia. So I think we need to address certain issues and put them out there and say that all forms of hatred is wrong, and support organisations that are trying to attack us, stand up for people that have been attacked by Islamophobia and all forms of hatred. So it could help them out type of organisations more. So I think it helps us a lot more.
Right. Could I ask you now, Daniel, please?
Yeah, I think the other candidates have covered this really, really well. We can't be accepting any form of hatred, and things like that need to be reported to police. We need to be listening to people. We need to be talking to communities, and we need to encourage communities to interact with each other, with events, with other such things that we have. We work closely with the police on anything of this nature, and not just Islamophobia. All the forms of hate. None of them are acceptable. And just keep listening to people and keep talking to people, because we all know it's basically the unknown is where a lot of the root problems are with this. And the better you know people, like we said earlier, there's much more that unite us And the more that everybody understands that about everybody else, then it'll be a lot easier to get along.
Right. Could I ask you all now just to give us 1 minute to finish off and tell us why we should vote for you? Oh, sorry, Daniel, if you could start with you again.
No, but I was just waiting. I was waiting to see who you were going to start with there. Yeah, not a problem. You know, I'm a hardworking man. I'm very good at communicating with people. I communicate with children with special needs. More than happy to listen to people. And the first thing I'd want to do is tackle the roads, really address the things in the area, and start with that as soon as possible. You know, Hunslet's got a vast and proud history, and there's a lot of reasons to be proud. We should still be able to live in the area and be proud of the area. And I just, personally, I don't feel that there's enough being done for that. And that is what I'd like to address. And a vote for me, they'd be the first things on my agenda.
Thank you. Omar?
So basically, I'd just like to say a vote for me is a vote for you. I'm born in St. James. I went to St. Luke's. I've lived in this community all my life. And let's send a message, not just to our community, to other communities, that they are not incapable of producing their own representation. They are not, you know, we can represent ourselves. I can, you know, I'm a voice for the community. I'll encourage youth work that I've been doing. We'll you know, we've got to feed our neighbours. You know, we've got so much to achieve, but the main primary objective is there's nothing better than representing your home. And South Leeds is where I live. It'll be where I die. I stay here. I live here. I sleep here. And I don't intend to leave. So the vote for me is a vote for you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, all I'd like to say is that if you do vote Tusk, he'll be putting down a marker against the anti-cuts that are taking place against the council. But I'd like to just reiterate and invite everybody, all the candidates here and all the other people, to come along, support the parents on the Little Downs demonstration in Hunslet, starting at Hunslet Riverside and walking to St Mary's on the 4th of May, 9:45, and everybody will be welcome because it's a parents' demonstration. Thank you.
Mohammed?
Thank you. The reason for me asking for your vote is to say that I have the experience, credible evidence of the work and achievements I have made over the years. I've led so many projects, schemes, supported everything, the local festivals, I've supported local community organizations, I've improved all the pocket parks, I've been involved with new development in Beverleys, Bismarcks, Garnets. I've wealth of experience and I'm a full-time councillor. I understand all diverse communities, all religions. I spend more time in the ward than anywhere else or even at home. So I think being a good councillor doesn't mean that you should be living in the ward. It's how passionate you are, and I'm very passionate because I'm not a career politician who joined politics to achieve high positions or you know, big salaries. I came to make a difference after a tragedy, and I want to improve so many. So there's so much more to do. I've a big list of achievements with community projects and organizations, and I want to do more and continue with this work as a full-time councillor, being available, accessible 24/7 to the local community.
We're running out of time, but thank you for that. Thank you ever so much, all of you, for spending the time to come and talk to everybody. It's been brought tonight by South Leeds Life. It's your community newspaper for Leeds 10 and 11. If you'd like to know more about it, join the board, subscribe to the newspaper, or become a sponsor, or put an advert in. If you're watching this and you've got a company in the area, feel free to do so. Thank you and good night.